So then that is it for now in the EFL Championship as we head into our first international break of the season. We are 4 games in for every team and the transfer window closes in just a matter of hours. It would be interesting if we were to have a look at how the bookies might have changed their mind from what they first thought at the start of the season to now. So let's do that today. Guys, just before we get into today's video, just a reminder, this is not my prediction, this is the bookies' predictions, so don't have a go at me. Feel free to share your own predictions down in the comments. Feel free to show some support though. Let's go for 2,000 likes. Hit that thumbs up button. The content will still keep coming despite the international break. And make sure to subscribe. Most importantly though, do share your predictions down below. I'm interested to see how you guys might have changed your minds based on what we've seen so far. With all that said and done, let's get into the predictions. And this is what the bookies have to say. Starting off at the bottom, it's still Sheffield Wednesday. Of course, they were forecast to finish 24th by the bookmakers and pretty much every single YouTuber. They currently sit 23rd above Sheffield United. I wonder, would Sheffield Wednesday fans take that as a bit of a consolation this season if they got relegated but also the Blades went down with them, just given the inevitability of the fact that they might go down this season? I've got to say though, Sheffield Wednesday have been far better than pretty much everyone expected. Let's give them some credit considering all the stuff going on off the pitch at the minute, and they've picked up a point. They've progressed twice in the Carabao Cup, they're still going in that, and some of the performances have been good. Obviously the off the pitch stuff is still dominating the whole picture at Sheffield Wednesday. I am trying to think of an analogy to describe the Sheffield Wednesday situation, the fact that everything's so bad off the pitch but they're still trying to be positive on the pitch. I suppose we all know the story of Titanic sinking, and when it hit the iceberg, I think it busted 5 of its compartments under the water and it was inevitably going to sink. There were people working on the ship trying to use pumps to get the water out to try and save the Titanic, but it was all futile in the end. I think they bought them a few extra minutes before it went under, and that's kind of what it feels like. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing, but do I think it's going to be enough to keep them up? Well, no. I mean, it would be an incredible story, don't get me wrong, I'm not writing them off. I'd love to see Sheffield Wednesday stay up, but surely the only way Sheffield Wednesday can stay up is if something significant happens off the pitch. Let's see what happens between now and the next international break though. Like I say, they've been better than I thought and they're not bottom. The bookies still have them bottom and they still have Oxford 23rd. Now Oxford, as I say, were cast to finish 23rd by the bookmakers. I did have them to stay up just because they proved me wrong last season. I wonder, could they go down this time? Now they are currently in the bottom 3, but they have been competitive. They've not lost any game by a heavy margin other than the Brighton game in the Carabao Cup. They're losing games by the odd goal, and against Coventry I thought it was a really spirited performance, and in the second half I think they fully deserved a draw. I think Cameron Brannigan is such a key player for them. Keeping him fit through the season will give them every chance of trying to get out of this. And they've got to start scoring points soon. They need at least 1 win between now and the next international break. And with Gary Rowett, they have got a fighting spirit. They've got to turn those 1-0 defeats into draws and then a couple of those draws into wins. And this one might come as a little bit of a surprise. The bookies currently have QPR to go down as well. Now QPR were originally forecast 20th by the bookies, which was a bit of a surprise to me because I have them mid-table. I quite liked some of their signings. They are currently 18th, and of course they had that 7-1 defeat to Coventry where they looked absolutely terrible. But as I've said, and I always say it, and it's probably getting boring to the QPR fans, I think they're a streaky team, and it wouldn't surprise me if after that they go and win the next 3 in a row. And they did get a crucial win over Charlton just before the international break. It definitely lifts the mood, there's more positivity, they've won a local derby, and importantly Kone is up and running with a couple of goals now. So I think this is one where the bookies probably have it quite tight. I think maybe Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday do look the standout relegation candidates at the minute. QPR maybe not so much, but the bookies have got them in there. Share your thoughts if you support QPR. Just above the drop, the bookies have Hull City. Now, Hull City have had a strange start to the season, haven't they? 0-0 against Coventry, a bonkers 3-3 draw with Wrexham, and then they lost on penalties in the Carabao Cup. And then they've just continued to concede loads of goals. Obviously, they lost 3-0 to Blackburn, lost 4-2 to Bristol City. But we should add the caveat that they have been struggling with a sickness bug going around the camp. That said, I thought against Coventry they were very good defensively, so that's why it surprised me how many goals they're conceding at the moment. I suppose Charlie Hughes is a big talking point between Hull and Coventry with hours left in the transfer window. Can Coventry get him? We will see. But if Hull hang on to him, I think they've got enough good defensive players that when they're fit, have a good chance of staying up. Just above them, the bookies have gone with Charlton Athletic, originally forecast to finish 21st. The bookies now have them in 20th. They are currently sitting 16th in the table. With Charlton, it feels like they started off quite well and the results have got worse, even though we've only seen just a small sample size. They beat Watford 1-0 with the late goal. I think they won their first Carabao Cup game. Was it against Stevenage? They drew 0-0 with Bristol City, and you're thinking, oh, this is a good start. They've then lost to Cambridge in the Cup, lost to Leicester 1-0. Granted, not a terrible result, that one, of course. And then they've just lost, of course, to QPR 3-1. Goal scoring does appear to be the problem. They look pretty solid at the back, and with Nathan Jones, they've always got a fighting chance. But unless they score more goals, then obviously they're going to struggle to win games. Next up, we've got Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn's a difficult one because they've lost every single game except for a 3-0 away win at Hull City. Now, I was full of praise for Blackburn getting that win at Hull. Obviously, there was the caveat that Hull City had a sickness bug, but is it going to be an outlier, that result? It does look that way at the moment when you consider they've lost every game. Obviously, they lost narrowly to West Brom. They didn't particularly play well in the first half, of course. They lost to Birmingham late on. That was a frustrating one. They've just lost to Norwich, and there's a red card, so it kind of ruins the game. And then they had the cup defeat to Bradford. It's difficult with a small sample size, but the early signs aren't great, if I'm being honest. But I think we said the early signs when Ismail came in originally towards the end of last season. We said the early signs aren't good. And then they won like 4 in a row and nearly got in the playoffs or something. So let's give it a bit more time. But as I say, early signs not the best for Blackburn. Do share your thoughts if you're a Rovers fan. Now, just above Blackburn, we find Watford. It feels like Watford have got better as the season's gone on, of course. They lost their first game away at Charlton. They then lost the cup game to Norwich. And then they picked up a win against QPR and they've drawn away at Swansea and at home to Southampton. I think that's pretty encouraging. They haven't kept a clean sheet yet, so obviously defensively improvements needed. And I still think the fixtures are going to open up. If you look at their September, you could see a couple of games that they're going to try and target and get the points. So maybe my prediction of mid-table-ish for Watford this season might come true based on the early evidence. Once again, it's early stages, so it's difficult to dissect too much, but the bookies have dropped them 5 places from their original prediction. Moving up 1 place since we last looked at this are Preston. They move into 17th. Seems a little bit harsh considering some of the results they've pulled out. I mean, let's be honest, Preston have maybe had one of the hardest starts on paper. They went away to QPR, they then hosted Leicester and Ipswich, and they picked up 7 points from those first 3 games. Okay, they've just lost to Pompey 1-0, but going away to Fratton Park is always a difficult game, isn't it? So I think this is quite harsh, considering Preston are currently 9th, and they do have that really good home record under Heckingbottom that they're going to want to keep going. Maybe away from home they won't be as good, but I don't know, maybe the bookies expect a little bit of a regression to the mean. And maybe the same said for Portsmouth, because I think Portsmouth have been pretty good so far. 8th in the table, 7 points picked up. It's been pretty encouraging, hasn't it? But the bookies have them to still finish only 16th. They did have them 19th, so they have slightly bumped them up. But I think Portsmouth, when I did my own predictions at the start of the season, were my sort of slight surprise package getting into the top half this time round. And I'm standing by that at the minute. The bookies might take a little bit of convincing to move their prediction. I have seen that John Mousinho has said that he wants to bring more bodies in, and with the transfer window closing soon, can he get that done? I still think the squad that they've got there at the minute, though, is more than comfortable of being mid-table at minimum. Just above Portsmouth, the bookies have Derby County. This one's quite interesting because Derby are currently 21st, but the bookies probably think John Eustace will get things going eventually. They have had a slightly difficult start, but that said, defensively they've looked very open. They've conceded so many goals so far this season. Positives, up and running. Obviously they lost their first 2 games, but they've drawn their last 2 against Bristol City and Ipswich, decent opposition, and Carlton Morris, he's scored a few goals, so that's crucial. Yeah, I think I'm with the bookies on a slight improvement to come for Derby, but so far, no wins. Just above Derby, the bookies have Swansea. Seems a bit harsh, this one, because Swansea are currently 7th. The bookies did originally have Swansea to finish 14th, and they've kept them there, so they're being stubborn on Swansea, which is maybe what the Swansea fans like. They like proving people wrong. Obviously, it's been a decent start for Swansea. A 2-0 win at Sheffield Wednesday just before the international break. It was a 1-1 against Watford the week before. They beat Sheffield United just before that. They did lose the opening game to Middlesbrough, but after Middlesbrough, they have the 2nd best defence in the league as things stand, with only 2 goals conceded across the 4 games. So very encouraging start for Swansea even though the bookies are not quite keen to get on board with them just yet. Just above Swansea City, we find Wrexham. This is interesting, isn't it? Now, the bookies had Wrexham 10th in their pre-season predictions. Wrexham currently sit 15th, and the bookies have met in the middle and said, right, 13th. Now, my original prediction, I think I had Wrexham about 16th or 15th, but to be fair, since then, Wrexham have brought in more players, and if I was to revise my predictions, I probably would have moved Wrexham up the table. One of those signings is Kiefer Moore, and he is well and truly up and running. Of course, he scored twice against Sheffield Wednesday, and he scored at Millwall as Wrexham got their first win of the league season. And of course, Lewis O'Brien scored as well, so those new signings really starting to function. As well as that, they have had a really good Carabao Cup run where they've beaten two championship teams in Hull City and Preston away from home. I think some people have been quite quick to get on board the Wrexham are falling apart bandwagon. Obviously, the 2-2 draw against Sheffield Wednesday wasn't good, but the performances against Southampton and West Brom did make me think things are going to come good. And I've said this, and I'm going to stand by it. I think there will be a good run from Wrexham soon. Maybe after the international break, they might go on a little run where they close in on the top 10 of the table. So, yeah, I think 13th is reasonable, in my opinion, from the bookies. 12th place, Millwall. Millwall were originally forecast 8th in the bookies' predictions. They currently sit 12th after that defeat to Wrexham that we've just touched on. The bookies have now got them to finish 12th as things stand. They've lost Tanganga, of course. They've brought in Caleb Taylor, though, decent. Interestingly, with Millwall, they've lost their 2 home league games, but they've won their 2 away league games. So is that maybe something we should come to expect from Millwall now that they're going to be better on the road? Maybe, I don't know. But nonetheless, a sort of down the middle start from Millwall. A couple of good results and a couple of bad ones in there. Still going in the Carabao Cup, and they go away to Crystal Palace next, which should be interesting. 11th place from the bookmakers, Bristol City. Seems a little bit harsh. I mean, to be fair, I originally had Bristol City mid-table in my predictions, and so did the bookies. They had them 11th. They've still got them 11th, even though Bristol City are currently 6th. Bristol City haven't lost a game yet, and you can make an argument they could have more points on the board. You know, they could have won away at Derby, they could have beaten Charlton at home. Possibly you could say it's been a soft start, but then let's not forget they did beat Sheffield United 4-1 away from home on that opening day, which none of us saw coming. Definitely looking good going forwards. I really like that front line of Mehmeti, Twine, and Emil Rees. Emil Rees obviously got a couple goals last time, so yeah, looking good for Bristol City, and maybe they're going to prove people wrong again. Into the top 10, the bookies have Norwich City. Difficult, actually, the same as Millwall. They've lost their 2 home league games, but they've won their 2 away league games. And in fact, they've won their away Carabao Cup game, but then they lost their home Carabao Cup game. So Norwich basically just don't like playing at Carrow Road, which is not good for Coventry because their next game is away at Coventry. So I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to that. They always beat us. In terms of transfer activity, of course, we saw the news that Nunes is making the journey down to Ipswich. Pele Matson comes in. I'm not too familiar with him, if I'm being honest, but do share your thoughts, Norwich fans. And the main thing is, you've kept hold of Josh Sargent so far, and he is scoring goals for fun, as we'd expect. Maybe he could carry them into the top 6. Next up then, we have Stoke City in 9th place in the bookies' all-new predictions. They did originally have them 15th, which I thought was understandable, considering Stoke always finish in the bottom half of the Championship, but they are currently 3rd. They won their first 3 league games. Okay, things have gone a little bit sour recently with the 3-0 defeat to Bradford in the Cup, and then of course the 1-0 home defeat to West Brom, but nonetheless a very, very encouraging start for Stoke City. Fair play to them. I think Mark Robins has done decent business, and obviously one thing he was labelled with at Coventry is he is the manager that gets a team off to a slow start, but that couldn't be further from the truth right now. And in terms of their upcoming fixtures, next up they have got Birmingham City, QPR, Norwich, and then Middlesbrough. I'm looking forward to the Stoke-Middlesbrough match as Robbins and Vivash are reunited, but difficult games. If Stoke can stay in the top 6 after those 4 games, then yeah, definitely, like I say, we've got to take them seriously. It's a very good start. Next up then, in 8th place, we find Sheffield United. Now this is a major contrast to how they're performing at the minute. So the bookies have them to finish 8th, and they're currently 24th. The only pointless team, and they're below, Sheffield Wednesday, who we think are just nailed on to get relegated. So what does that mean for Sheffield United? Well, I think it means that the manager's under massive pressure. I did say at the time when they replaced Wilder with Sellers, that I didn't think Wilder going was the right choice. But I did say at the time that I do like Ruben Sellers when he came in, because obviously I thought he did well with Hull and with Reading. But this is a very, very sad state of affairs. And I think it's, you know, we talk about Sheffield Wednesday problems off the pitch. You could say that the same could be said at Sheffield United. Obviously, the fans aren't happy with the people at the top of the club, the transfer activity. Gustavo Hamer, you know, with hours to go in the transfer window, is he going to stay? It doesn't look likely. Could Callum O'Hare go as well? I know he's not vital to them. And actually, can I make this point that I did say a few weeks ago? I thought, you know, Kiefer Moore's a player that'd be good to hang on to. And I had a bit of pushback from the Sheffield United fans, which they're well entitled to. You know, they're entitled to their own opinions. But I do wonder, Sheffield United fans, are you looking at Kiefer Moore at Wrexham and thinking, we could do with the goals he's scoring for them? Because I think Sheffield United look a shambles going forwards and at the back. Especially going forwards, though. I just don't see where the goals are coming from. Next up, Ipswich away, and that's obviously a massive game for both, because Ipswich have had a slow start, but you could definitely see Sheffield United losing their first 5, maybe their first 6. So I don't know what that means for Ruben Sellers. I struggle to see how he's going to last much longer given the expectations at Sheffield United. Next up, 7th, West Brom. Maybe a little bit harsh this, because they're currently 2nd in the table, but maybe the bookies expect a bit of a regression to the mean. I mean, yeah, look, I think I don't see, I mean, me personally, do I see West Brom finishing in the top 2? It's not impossible, but I think maybe a playoff team is a more realistic observation, and I wonder, would West Brom fans agree with that? Do you think playoffs, maybe not top 2? What I will say is the top 2 does look quite open at this early stage, because the teams you'd expect to be up there are not up there, but the bookies have West Brom 7th, which I do think is harsh. I personally think they will be a bit higher than that, but yeah, let's see. I mean, look, let's talk about them. What a great win at Stoke City last time. Stoke have been flying, and West Brom have gone there and knocked them down a peg or two. Nat Phillips, by the way. I said it when they brought him in. This could be the best signing out of any transfer move this window. And I'm starting to think, yeah, that's going to be the case. I mean, he of course scored against Stoke, and they've looked really solid at the back. Credit to Ryan Mason. I think some people were a bit sceptical, but he's had a really good start. As far as transfer activity is concerned, Tom Fellows has gone out, of course, for 10 million, but Alfie Gilchrist has come in. I think things are looking good at West Brom, and they're sneaking under the radar. I think while Middlesbrough are top, they're going to get the most love and attention, and we're going to come on to them in a minute. But if West Brom can just stay on their tails, who knows? Who knows? I don't know. West Brom do play Middlesbrough in September, by the way, which I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, very good start from West Brom. Let's give them lots of credit. Moving up the table into the top 6, we find Leicester City. Also seems a little bit harsh, considering, you know, they're a parachute team and they're currently 4th. Now, the bookies did originally have Leicester 6th. Leicester are currently 4th. And considering Ipswich and Southampton have started quite slow, I don't know what Leicester have to do to win the bookies round. Leicester have won 3 of their first 4 league games, and considering some of the teams they've played, I think it's a good start. It did seem a little bit iffy maybe at the start when they only just scraped past Sheffield Wednesday, and then they did lose to Preston and they lost to Huddersfield in the Cup. But the win against Birmingham was a big statement result. There's difficult games coming, and of course Leicester play Coventry in September, but it is at the King Power. I'm not sure about Coventry's chances there. I don't know. I'm a bit nervous for that one. I'll be getting my ticket for that on Tuesday, actually. But let's give Martí Cifuentes credit. Didn't bring in many players, did they? But the continuity is there, and they've still kept lots of quality. And as things stand, I think definitely top 6. The bookies are only going as far as 6th. 5th place, the bookies have gone with Middlesbrough. This is a difficult one, isn't it? Now, the bookies had Middlesbrough to finish 8th. I had them also just outside the playoffs, but they're currently top of the table. So do you meet in the middle and say playoffs? I wonder, Middlesbrough fans, if you're being realistic right now, do you still think 5th or 6th would be a good finish? I think realistically, yeah. You know, obviously right now it's quite easy to get carried away when you're top of the table and the opportunity seems to be opening up with the other strong teams struggling, but I think September's going to be a real challenge, should I say. You know, I think Rob Edwards and Adi Vivash have been brilliant. They've hit the ground running. And obviously they're scoring goals. Conway is up and running. Whittaker looking decent. Hayden Hackney's still there. Obviously, Azaz going is a loss. But things are looking good. Let's look at their September, though. Preston away, West Brom, Southampton, Stoke, and then Portsmouth away. That's difficult. If Middlesbrough are still in the top 2... after those 5, so when we played 9 games, then yes, I'm getting quite excited. And look, you know, they're already 3 points clear of third. I know it's not a massive amount, but at this early stage, yeah, it's very encouraging, isn't it? Best defence in the league, by the way. They've only conceded 1. So, yeah, Middlesbrough fans, share your thoughts. What a great start to the season. Next up, 4th place, Coventry. I think I do agree with the bookies here. I think maybe around 4th at the minute. Now, the bookies did originally have Coventry to finish 5th, and Coventry are currently 5th in the table. You can definitely make the argument that Coventry have had a soft start. When you look at the teams who've played, there's harder games coming, and September does look tricky with Norwich, Leicester and Birmingham. If we can stay in the top 6 after those 3, I'll be very encouraged, because they're a really tricky set of 3. But let's talk about the positives, because Coventry are scoring goals for fun. We're the top scorers in the league by some distance, and we look like we can hurt any team from any angle. You know, penalties, Hadji Wright, ruthless. Free kicks, Victor Torp. You know, shots from outside the box, inside the box. We're moving well on the ball and off the ball, and going forwards, I've got no worries. But defensively and in the goalkeeping department, couple of question marks. I'm not going to slag us off. We haven't lost a game yet in the league. I think we've been good. But when the tough games come, maybe a couple things could be exposed. Maybe. But look, like I say, the opportunity is there this season. Can we capitalise on Southampton and Ipswich getting off to slow starts and really try and get into that conversation regarding the top 2? With the transfer window soon to close, I would like one more player in. Charlie Hughes would be nice, but any defender that's got championship experience would be good. But like I say, the main bit of business we've done this window is to secure the CBS. So I'm very happy right now. Into 3rd place, Birmingham City. Birmingham are currently 10th. 2 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. But very difficult start. Let's be realistic. They've had one of the hardest starts on paper with Ipswich at home and, you know, Leicester away in that first 4 games. And they've come through it pretty good, haven't they? You know, not just results-wise, but performances. Against Ipswich, you know, we all agree they should have won that game, shouldn't they? Against Blackburn, they left it late, but they got the win. That shows good character. Against Oxford, it could have been more comfortable, but, you know, when we look at Oxford's results, no one's smashing them to pieces, so that's good. You know, you got the win. And then against Leicester, okay, Ricardo Pereira, he could have seen red, and then he doesn't get the second goal, and maybe Birmingham get a draw out of that game. I still think the best is yet to come, though. You know, and that's probably what the bookies think right now, because they've got them 3rd, and they're currently 10th. The fixtures, I mean, September is a bit mixed, and they've got Coventry away, which I really don't know how to feel about that one. But Blues fans, let's get your thoughts down below. You're still tipped to do quite well, and I think the early signs are pretty good. Into the top 2 then. And this is interesting, Southampton and Ipswich. Let's start with Southampton, 2nd. The bookies had them to finish 2nd at the start of the season, and they're currently 13th. They've just signed Tom Fellows from West Brom. Azaz as well is a really good signing. Obviously, Will Still, I mean, I backed Southampton to win the league. Now, I rate Will Still. Is there a bit of a bedding in period going on at the minute? Just looking at the results. I mean, performances, they're a bit mixed as well, aren't they? But results, yeah, they're very mixed for a team we expected a bit more off. I think at the moment, while Sheffield United and Ipswich are really struggling, Southampton are not getting maybe as much scrutiny. But I do think they'll come good. I don't massively disagree with Southampton being 2nd still. Let's be realistic. This is a 46-game season, and we've played 4 games. So let's give Southampton a few more games, especially the Southampton-Portsmouth game coming up soon. And I think they will work their way up the table, but it's all about how long will it take them. You know, if they're still not in the top 6 after 10 games, then they start to look like they're going to fall behind in terms of the top 2 race. Now, top of the table, Ipswich Town, and this is very, very interesting because it's the biggest disparity between where a club currently sits in the table and where the bookies have them to finish come the end of the season. Ipswich are currently 20th, and the bookies are still standing by them to win the league. It's difficult, isn't it? Because there's 2 sides to this coin. The first side is the positives. They've got a very good team. They've got a very good manager, and you can make the argument they have had a difficult start, but let's be realistic, to have not won any of their first 4 games, and of course you throw in the defeat to Bromley in the Cup, it's been a really poor start. Performance-wise, definitely not as good as some of us thought they'd be. But do we have to cut them a bit of slack? I guess some, because they've been relegated, and until the transfer window's closed, they've been in this sort of holding pattern, as Benjamin Bloom would describe it. And he's obviously a massive Ipswich fan that I spoke to off camera the other day, and of course he was pretty disappointed at the start to the season so far, and that's before they've just drawn with Derby. Obviously, not great patterns of play. I mean, they've lost the momentum and the positivity that they had last time they came to the Championship. But let's not forget, McKenna has enormous credit in the bank. I think something would have to go hugely wrong for us to be in a position where there's question marks over him. But there still has to be question marks over the performances so far. Let's give them a few more games. Sheffield United at home next. If they win that, all of a sudden you can see them maybe building momentum. And when Ipswich get going, by the way, they really get going. They could win 5 in a row, and then, you know, they're back in the top 2. So let's wait and see. But that's what the bookies have for now. That is their table. Guys, whether you agree or disagree, let me know your thoughts respectfully in the comments. That is the bookmakers' current Championship predictions based on what we've seen so far. Be sure to support the video. Thank you for watching. Drop a like. Make sure to subscribe. It's all massively appreciated. And of course, we head into September now. Good luck to everyone going back to work and going back to school. I'll see you for more content very soon. Take care. Peace out.